fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
All right, guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. If you want to watch a recap of the previous event, stick around till the end. But for right now, we're just going to get right into it. For this next card, we did go, I believe, 9-2 on our picks for the last card. And yeah, so first fight, Zubaira Tukhugov versus Elves Brenner. In this fight, Elves Brenner making his UFC debut. Zubaira been in the UFC, faced some decent opponents. Hakeem Dawodu, in a kind of a close striking match. This guy isn't particularly great at just going out and dominating his opponents, but I am going to pick him here to win this fight. I'm going to say by decision. I think that he just fights very conservative, uses his jab well, uses his wrestling when needed. Brenner on the other side, a little bit more crazy, likes to spin, get wild with his style, and I think against a very calm fighter here, he's going to have a hard time actually landing these strikes, getting into range, but Zubaira is also not the most reliable fighter, so for him being a heavy underdog, it is a little bit surprising to me, but UFC debut against a Russian, they're going to do you dirty.
I mean, he, like you said, coming in on short notice, and the level of competition he's faced hasn't been the greatest, so I do see him struggling here, Brenner that is, but he's coming from that Crute box camp there with Charles Oliveira. Yeah, he's never been finished before, so I'd lean Zubaira by decision.
Yeah, he loves to spin from what I've seen. Like, just loves spinning elbows and all that stuff. But, like I said, if you have a guy who, like, can use his jab well, you're going to have a hard time getting into range to do all that stuff. But he could be a fun underdog. If you're going to pick him by finish, Brenner, if you're going to bet anything like that. But other than that, nothing else I got for this fight. I got Zubaira by decision. Okay, for the second fight, we have Bilder versus Shane Young. I'm sticking with Shane Young in this matchup. I'm not actually convinced that either of these guys are fantastic fighters. Shane Young actually faced some higher level competition with his time in the UFC. Volk, Ludwig Klein, that's a pretty tough opponent for people to face. And then Omar Morales, not the best fighter, but technically still pretty sound on the feet. Bilder, on the other hand, looked good on the Contender Series, has pretty good grappling, but also I see some weak points with this guy's game. I think that he has a really hard time under pressure. He has a nice left hook, he has good grappling, but if you watch the Carvalho fight, he gets dropped in that fight. He looks like he a fish out of water when he gets hit. He's just not used to that. And when these guys that come off the Contender Series and the regional scenes, where they can't just dominate with grappling where they're typically used to it, they really struggle getting people down and controlling a fight. And not that Shane Young's this phenomenal fighter, but he's more of a dog. He can take the punches going forward a little better, and I think he's going to fight through the initial pain maybe early in the first round, and I think he's going to find a second round knockout.
Yeah, Shane Young has 5 fights already in the UFC. He's fought better competition. This will be a step up for Bilder coming into the UFC, making his debut in Shane Young's backyard in Australia. So I think Shane Young is a slight favorite, but on Tapology, 82% of the people are picking Bilder. So
right,
that makes me want to lean towards Young here.
And people always seem to overhype a little bit Contender Series fighters, but Young also beat Muay Thai fighter Rolando Dai. Not the best fighter, obviously, not a great record, but he did show promise in the stand-up. And like I said, with the pressure, when you can't just take someone directly down, I like that he can maybe just go zombie mode, be the junkyard dog, and win this fight. So yeah, I got Young by KO in round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Loma Lookboomee versus Elise Reed. Taking Loma Lookboomee and her Muay Thai style here to beat Elise Reed. Elise Reed sometimes does a good job against opponents keeping the range and letting her right hand win her fights. But in this instance, I think she's going to have a really hard time being in kicking range of Lookboomee here. And also, these the Muay Thai style is so rich with trips and catching people's kicks and dropping them. Loma also looked very good in her grappling against Denise Gomez, and I think that Elise Reed's a fish out of water on the ground as well. So I like Loma to control this fight from start to finish, whether it's on the ground or on the feet. And I like her to win a decision here.
Yeah, I like her wherever this fight goes. Like you said, Muay Thai background. I think she'll win in the striking department, and if it goes on the mat too, I think she'll be physically stronger and could dominate on the ground too as well.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize how actually good Denise Gomez, kind of from the Contender Series for a UFC debut, looked in that fight. Like, kind of got hit in the first round, but she's really good in late rounds. That's just her style, and she gave a little bit more trouble to Loma. Elise Reed, when Sam Hughes got her on the ground, it was game over. I think people hyped up Melissa Martinez going into that last fight. We picked Elise Reed. She skated out of a decision, but yeah, nothing crazy going on here. I typically don't bet chick fights. I actually advise people to put Lookboomee in parlays. I actually think that she's a good option.
Yeah, she's only 27 as well too, so she's getting
better, right?
Better and better every fight.
All right, Lookboomee by decision. Okay, next fight we have Jack Jenkins versus Don Shainis. In this matchup, we're going with the favorite Jack Jenkins. This guy's looked really impressive. He's also got a very good build, I think, for MMA. Got a decent-sized reach for his size. Dense guy, can wrestle, and is impressive in the stand-up, and I think that he has really high fight IQ. Uses good length in his strikes and goes to the body a lot. If you've seen this guy's fights, he's never forcing a finish, and he's just kind of toying with his opponents time after time. And I've been really impressed with what he's done so far. Don Shainis, on the other side, just kind of is a wrestler, and he's fighting low-level competition coming up to his UFC debut. I don't know how anyone in the world starts with, a role of Jay Ellis, this guy, Bryce Picard, and then goes to Sadiq Yusuf. That is just such a jump, and an unfair jump for him. And it's not going to be as good in the striking here. And again, if you're on the regional scene and you can out-wrestle everybody, you're going to look pretty good, but I don't think he's going to out-wrestle Jack Jenkins here. I like a second-round knockout for Jenkins.
Yeah, I like that as well, too. This is in his backyard as well, in Australia. I think this is a favorable matchup for Jack Jenkins, and I like him to get the finish.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, those body shots will slow him down. Again, a grappler, if Shainis is just shooting takedowns the whole time and failing, you're going to get tired quick. And yeah, again, like you said too, you go to the judges' scorecards on this, hometown fighter could win very easily. And this actually is one of the more Contender Series fighters I was more high on. So yeah, I like Jack Jenkins for a second-round KO. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jamie Mullarkey versus Francisco Prado. We're picking Jamie Mullarkey in this fight, but he doesn't have a style that wows me. He's kind of just like a zombie fighter, I would say. Comes forward, takes the shots to deliver the shots. And Prado, on the other hand, young guy, very young for the sport, has looked very good in where he has been. Hasn't faced the best competition, but also very well built for his age. Looks really strong at his weight, and has some good hands on him as well with power. But at the same time, I don't think he's developed that timing, because he's out grappling, out striking lower level people. Mullarkey, on the other hand, has faced or shared the cage with some pretty good fighters, and I like Mullarkey to drag this fight out a little bit and find a finish, but I don't feel super confident on his abilities.
Yeah, he's got a ton of power, and he's only 20 years old, making his UFC debut here. If he doesn't find a finish in the first round, then I do like Mullarkey to win. but I mean, I could see him getting Prado, that is, getting a finish in the first round.
Yeah,
He's finished every single one of his opponents.
Right, and if you look at Jamie Mullarkey's last fight, he got dropped real bad versus Michael Johnson. But like, we all know Michael Johnson has that like a lot of power at his hands, and it's not too surprising. But then again, he hurt Johnson. Like, he's just got that kind of wild style where he can put pressure on people.
Mullarkey doesn't have like a ton of head movement. It doesn't seem like.
No, not at all. And it's a big step up for Prado. It's a hard fight to take at 20 years old. I mean, you look at how they promote whatever the Mexican kid is, the 17-year-old, 18-year-old.
Raul Rosas.
Yeah, I almost called him Jay Perrin, the guy he faced. I mean, talk about the difference in the initial fight you're given. It's a much higher test. But I think also they skated by throwing together some of these prelim fights for this new card. Considering the prelims for the last card were actually really good. But anyway, Mullarkey, KO, round 3. Okay, for our next fight, we have Kleydson Rodrigues versus Shannon Ross. I'm picking... sorry, I almost said Shannon Ross. I'm picking Kleydson Rodrigues here. I think that this guy is a really good fighter, and I think he made some mistakes in his fight against CJ Vergara. It was a robbery. I mean, Rodrigues won that fight. I think most people know that. But
you shouldn't have to say that.
Right.
He should have ran through Vergara.
Well, there was weird moments with cage grabs that kept Vergara in top position. But the problem with that fight is I felt like Rodrigues was too content to lay on his back and let Vergara be in his guard. And I didn't like that for going to the scorecards, but this dude's striking should be way better than Shannon Ross's here. Shannon Ross was in, honestly, probably the second best fight of the year on the Contender Series. I thought that fight with Salvador was absolutely insane, and he got dropped multiple times and somehow just popped up off of huge shots. But I think that Kleydson Rodrigues is a more technical version of Salvador. He's gonna pick his shots more, use his kicking game. He's got better movement with his feet. And I like Rodrigues to find a finish in the second round here. I think that he's just gonna be too much. As well as Ross just took a shit ton of damage in that fight. You don't know how that translates into here.
Yeah, I mean, Ross got the contract losing on the Contender Series, which don't really see too often. I think Rodrigues, at 27 years old, I think he's still learning from that loss against Vergara, and I don't see him making some of those mistakes again. And I do like him to get the finish here.
Yeah, he'll be the more technical fighter. And if you look at where Shannon Ross had his moments in the Contender Series fight, it was off of Salvador being really chaotic and then him getting his time to step in and get some shots. And that's just not going to be as prevalent here. But obviously, I think the biggest scare for this fight is just Rodrigues sitting on his back playing jiu-jitsu and getting stuck there. But I think CJ Vergara also probably has better wrestling than Shannon Ross. We'll see. But yeah, Kleydson Rodrigues, KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Joshua Culibao versus Melsik Baghdasaryan. It's really hard to pick against either of these guys because Baghdasaryan's on his way up, has looked phenomenal, and Culibao upsets a ton of people. I'm going to pick Culibao by decision in a nail-biter and a split decision victory here. Culibao, some people's opinion of Sung Woo Choi after that fight obviously got destroyed, and it wasn't a split decision. It was pretty clear. Culibao won the first 2 rounds. Somehow a judge gave Choi round 1 when he got dropped twice. So I don't know how that worked. But he's consistently looked good to me. And if you look at his Charles Jourdain fight, I think you see big improvement from that fight to his Choi fight. He has phenomenal timing and holds his gas tank well through all 3 rounds. But the concern for me sometimes is that he has trouble getting the fight to the ground, and that's where he likes to clinch up and hold people. But I do like him to take over rounds 2 and 3, maybe as they drag on. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it should be a really close fight. I don't think I mean, at the time, the Choi win looked good, but after watching Choi's performance against Trezano, I mean, that doesn't look as good as it did at the time. But yeah, I mean, I still really like him, and I think it will be a very close decision. I'd be interested to see what the over is like, but
yeah, I feel like Baghdasaryan, he's very good in a fight where he's just the hammer nailing people, and he does have a crazy good left kick, whether it's the teep, whether it's the body kick, head kick. He can control the fight from that range. So if Culibao is going to win this fight, he's got to sit kind of outside that kicking range and then dart in, kind of like Wonderboy Thompson, to get his shots in, because Baghdasaryan's extremely technical. I don't see this fight playing out on the ground at all. But I ever so lean Culibao. It's hard to say I doubt Baghdasaryan. He's looked amazing up till this point. And I'm excited for this fight. This is an underrated fight that'll fly under the radar. But yeah, Culibao by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Tyson Pedro versus Modestas Bukauskas. I feel like Tyson Pedro is going to win this fight by knockout in the first round, but there is a little bit more going on here, I think, to consider. Tyson Pedro came from that big break off, and then he fought the 2 worst light heavyweights on the roster in a row, like Villanueva and then Harry Hunsucker, and neither of those guys, I think, got a strike on him. So, like, I think they've collapsed 1 to leg kicks and 1 to like a body kick. Bukauskas, on the other hand, he was in the UFC, kind of got fucked up for a minute. Jimmy Crute fucked him up real bad. And then Khalil Roundtree broke his goddamn leg. But then he went into a different scene
Cage
here.
Warriors.
Yeah, he went into a different spot here, and I just saw him win a fight. I think it's Cage Warriors. He won by decision versus somebody, but it was not an impressive performance. He won by knockout late in the fight, but it wasn't an impressive performance. He doesn't have great hands. He's just kind of a big fucking guy, and I don't think he has the skill set or the coordination to be that great here. I could also see Pedro taking him down and submitting him. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a good matchup for Pedro here. It is a step up from Harry Hunsucker, but I mean, I think any fight in that division would be a step up. So I think they're trying to get him another easy fight in his hometown, and he should get a first round knockout here.
I feel a little bit nervous for this one because I think Modestas could circle the cage just to try to survive because he's had a bad go in the UFC before. But who knows what happens in this one? I'm a little bit sketched out by the odds and just how everything is, but we'll see. Anyway, Tyson Pedro, KO, round 1. Okay, for our next fight, we have Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menifield. Picking Jimmy Crute, a little bit heavier of a favorite, probably shouldn't be this high. I'm going to pick him by submission in round 2. Alonzo Menifield, though, has very good takedown defense. He can actually sink his hips back pretty fast and actually get away from some of the takedowns. But for the most part, only has a round and a half of gas, and is kind of a destructive style, as we've seen. Just likes to charge in with power shots and go for a finish. And I think some of this is going to his head. And, he's got 2 wins in a row, but I think he's a little bit more confident than his abilities show. Jimmy Crute, on the other hand, people really hyped him up for how his career went up to the point of Anthony Smith. Got dead-legged in that fight, but was kind of getting out-botched to the point. And I really think what's hard for Jimmy Crute is he hasn't been in a high-level striking match in a fight yet, where he's been able to use his takedowns to get out of stuff. And then we fought Anthony Smith. He was just sitting on the end of his jab getting pieced up. until that lead kick ended the fight. But same thing with Jamal Hill. You can't even compete with that guy in the stand-up. And so Jimmy Crute's a little bit hit or miss here. I do like Crute to find a takedown like in round 2 when Menifield starts to get really tired. Defending shots and throwing big bombs that possibly miss. But the Tapology community here is on Menifield for the majority, and he's a big underdog, so a little surprising there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just people seeing Menifield twice now getting first-round KOs in 2022. And then, I mean, we haven't seen Jimmy Crute in a year and 2 months, so, I mean,
Right.
the recent bias would play a factor in that, I believe. But I think if Jimmy Crute can get this to the ground, I think he can get a submission. I do like the under. Maybe I'll do under 2.5.
Yeah.
Because it's set at 1.5 right now. But I mean,
Alternate.
Crute's been finished first round. But most of his finishes are in that first round as well. So he's either killed or he's been killed in that first round.
Yeah, and Alonzo Menifield has a loss over William Knight. At the same time, I feel like Crute would just fucking maul William Knight. But matchups get weird when takedown defense and stuff comes into play. I mean, Menifield isn't very technical, but like again, I think he feels a bit more swaggy coming into a fight like this. And Jimmy Crute could feel a little bit nervous. You get finished twice in a row, and you're going into a big fight at your home, pressures on your shoulders. But he's also
and he's left his chin up there, and Menifield has a ton of power, so I mean, he can get a knockout.
Only thing is I feel like Menifield has no timing. That's the only thing that I think saves him a little bit is that like Jamal Hill has crazy timing on his strikes. Right. So but yeah, let's move on to the next one. Crute by submission in round 2. Okay, for the next fight we have the signature fat heavyweight fight going on here with Justin Tafa and Parker Porter. I'm picking Parker Porter by decision. I'm surprised that Parker Porter's an underdog here. Justin Tafa might only be the favorite because he looks like Tai Tuivasa. Just looks similar to him. I really don't understand it. This dude's skill set is not that good. He just throws some haymakers on the feet, misses shots frequently, and hasn't faced many great fighters. Parker Porter, on the other hand, nothing special to this division either, but also I think he's just got better boxing, can get in and out of range on people better. Lost most recently to Jailton Almeida, but also just has a little bit more ability in the stand-up, and I think if this fight, he gets a takedown, he's just going to be heavy on top of Tafa. There's no way Tafa's getting up. But this is a signature fight that should not be on the main card that the UFC so desperately puts on the main card, and we don't know why. But yeah, I'm going to take Parker Porter by decision.
Because they're heavyweights, and they seem to love heavyweights for some reason.
Like,
I don't know why.
I think they like it because they think there's going to be like knockouts in heavyweight fights, but Parker Porter's not a knockout guy. And Justin Tafa maybe is a little bit more that style, but still not that great of a fighter. Anyway.
Yeah, I'd kind of be interested to see where the over-under is placed at.
Probably 2.5.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, but I mean, I'd see this going to a decision, wouldn't you?
I could see if Tafa's going to win, it's probably going to be by knockout. But Parker Porter also, I don't think he's been finished. You might have to check. Other than, Chris Dawkins knocked him out. I was going to say, Jailton Almeida, I won't even count that one for getting finished because everyone's going to get finished by him. Anyway, Parker Porter by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Randy Brown versus Jack Della Maddalena. I think this is a tough matchup for Jack. It's a big jump, but I'm taking Jack by knockout in the second round. Randy Brown just faced Francisco Trinaldo, who, is it the ageless wonder, can win fights at an old age. but also knocked him down in that fight with showboating, acting like something crazy, and debatably he won that or lost that fight. I think Trinaldo won rounds 2 and 3. Before that was getting caught by Chaos Williams, who has more of a crazy, wild style, and I think Jack's going to be much sharper with his punches. The biggest question, though, is more Jack's grappling game if Randy can implement that and take over the fight there.
I think Randy's jiu-jitsu is pretty good, but his wrestling doesn't seem to be that great.
Right.
Jack Della Maddalena, you saw against Emev or whatever, how you pronounce his name.
Emev.
Getting out of that choke. I mean, he was pretty good defensively, so I like this to stay standing and Jack to get that knockout.
Yeah, we've talked about his fights before. Like, I always like to say he has like a Dustin Poirier type style where he's not throwing 100% on all of his punches, but when he does really look for that punch that's going to hurt you, he throws it hard and it's accurate. And Randy Brown, other than being just a giant for the division, if you break down his full skill set, he's not that great of a fighter. He's just more, being way bigger than everyone else in this division, and he also gets away with things, I think, for his jiu-jitsu just off being that long. So,
Jack Della's only 26 years old. He's just had a kid as well, too, so there's some extra motivation for him.
Right.
And this fight is in his hometown, so.
And, is Jack a minus 300 favorite? I don't know.
No, probably not. I'd have him probably 200.
Right.
I'm not. I'd be betting a ton on him, so.
Yeah, if I were to bet anything on this fight, it would probably just be Jack by knockout straight. Because that'll probably come out to, plus 100 or more, so. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I mean, he wins all of his fights by knockout besides that one on the Contender Series.
And he showed good cardio in that fight against Losa in the Contender Series.
Exactly.
They were still piecing each other up in round 3.
Right. What also could be scary is, I don't know, that maybe Randy Brown uses a little bit more knees and bigger things that could hit Jack in the face, but I don't think Randy Brown's going to be the guy that's going to fix Maddalena's nose here by any means. I think that nose is going to stay crooked for a while. No one's going to punch it back into place. And, Jack by knockout. Really excited to see what happens with this fight. All right, for the next fight, we have Yair Rodrigues versus Josh Emmett. We're picking Yair Rodrigues. I'm going to talk about some MMA math right now, but I don't know if it, MMA math doesn't add up, but I'm going to say some stuff. Calvin Kattar, he beat, in my eyes, Josh Emmett in that fight. Round 4, whatever judge scored it for Emmett, even though it's clearly Kattar. But I think that Calvin Kattar put on a close fight, beat Josh Emmett. If you go over, Yair Rodrigues or Max Holloway faced Calvin Kattar, beat the fuck out of him, and then Max Holloway faced Yair and then turned into a wrestler. I think that in the stand-up here, Yair is going to be way faster. Not to mention, when Calvin Kattar faced Josh Emmett, most of his defense for strikes is just shelling up like this. Whereas Yair is going to be using head movement, in and out of range, footwork, staying away from the big shots. And I like Yair to get a late knockout here, like round 4.
Yeah, I think Yair's kicks will be a huge factor in this fight. And his movement, like you said, Kattar, he's box heavy. He's going to stand right in front of you and try to box. Dan Ige, he's box heavy. He's standing right in front of you. I think with Josh Emmett, someone moving around like that, I think it'll be tougher for him to land those punches. I think Volk at the top of the division pretty clearly. Then the next level, Yair, Holloway, and then next level. I think Yair, Max are in their own
right.
I guess tier in that division. And then Emmett, Kattar, and farther down.
Emmett's got that base grappling that he could use in this fight, but Yair also he moves around well. His ground game isn't bad. I think Max had to dive in a little bit more for it, but I think it should slow down Emmett over time having to do that. And if you just look at what Yair does damage-wise to people in the fucking first round, I mean, if Emmett can't get him to the ground, with Max, how many goddamn crazy kicks he just put on him. And then also to Brian Ortega beat the shit out of him in the first round up until that takedown to the shoulder injury. He was just picking him apart at distance. So I like Yair's style. He's one of my favorite featherweights. Yeah, and I like him to win this fight. Would you place a bet on Yair in this instance?
I do. I do think I will be betting on Yair Rodrigues. I mean, Emmett's almost 38 years old, right? Yair Rodrigues is 30. He's getting in his prime right now, if he's not already in it.
Right.
So I think this will be a huge fight for Yair, and then Yair and Volk.
Not to mention, Yair's got a good chin, too, so...
Oh, they're Mexican tough.
It's hard to say if Emmett could flatline him. I mean, he's got the power to flatline anybody, but Yair has fought, the Korean Zombie who put a ton of significant strikes on him, and he's improved much more since that point. So, yeah, I like Yair here too. I'm not sure if this fight should be an interim title fight, but I will enjoy that it's 5 rounds instead of 3 rounds. I always will like that. So, Yair by knockout in the 4th round. Okay, for the next fight, we have Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. I've been with Volkanovski his whole career. I picked him in every Holloway fight, every fight he's been in, and I'm getting off the train. I am sorry, Alexander Volkanovski. I think Islam's going to win this fight. And I'm picking Islam by submission. I'll say round 2. Let things get into pace a little bit. If this fight was Islam Makhachev at 145 coming up to 155, it would make me feel better about Volk. But the fact that he's a smaller guy coming into the division against probably the biggest guy in the division, strongest guy, has the biggest squeeze on anybody. I just have a hard time seeing him hold up with that grappling. And Islam Makhachev and these Russians, look at Umar Nurmagomedov, they improve their striking every fight. And I think that in order to beat Islam Makhachev, you need to be someone with KO power on one shot, and I just don't know if Volkanovski has that ability to put him out here.
Yeah. Pains me to pick against Volk, but like you said, Makhachev, too big, too strong, has the death grip of the Dagestani wrestlers, so I do think he'll find a submission. Like you said too, I mean, if Volk had knockout power, I wouldn't mind it, but I just don't see it.
Right, it made me feel better that Charles Oliveira has that kind of death touch he can put on people, and I thought that since we picked Oliveira in that fight, I thought that he could find that in the first round, and Islam's stand-up was much improved, and DC was right about all that, but Alexander Volkanovski, he hasn't one-shot knocked out anybody, really, right? So,
No.
I have a hard time seeing him put him away. I bet Islam Makhachev by submission, but I actually feel kind of nervous for that now, because in all these interviews now, he's saying I'm going to knock him out.
I don't know how... Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if he's going to go to the ground and just do what he did to Bobby Green, where he mounted him and just smacked him on both sides of the head. But
yeah, it could just be him just saying that,
right?
Thinking that he'll stand with Volk, but could just be playing that game. You don't know.
What's also hard to take away from all this is that, I mean, Volkanovski's a good wrestler and all, but featherweight isn't a wrestling division, and it really hasn't been for a while. And Islam Makhachev, the lightweight division, is all wrestlers. And if you see that Arman Sarutian, the second or third highest rated probably wrestler in that division, can't get Islam to the ground, or he's getting taken down, I mean, what does that say for Volk? That's really tough. And again, smaller size. I don't know if he's going to be able to scramble out of positions. I will be cheering for Volkanovski, but it's hard to pick against that Dagestani Sambo wrestling style. So, anything else you got?
I hate to see Volk lose his pound-for-pound number one in this fight, but that's what it looks like is going to happen.
Radio, I commend him for doing this. I don't think many fighters would go for double champ status and against a fighter like Islam. People dodge fighting him, so...
Right. Yeah, this will be his toughest test.
Right. Okay, that ends UFC 284. Again, Islam Makhachev by submission in round 2. Okay, this now brings us to Lewis versus Spivak recap, betting, picks, all that stuff. Yeah, so I think we only got... I'll have to pull this up really fast on my phone, but first bet, Lee, Tyara, and Daun Jung. Lee won a very close fight, but I do believe he actually won on damage. Tetsuru Taira, as I think our prediction was spot on for this fight. Aguilar pulled a guillotine, Taira was on top of him and just took over. Jung, on the other hand, I feel his fight IQ is hard in this fight. He, in the first round, took down Devin Clark on top of him, and then he lost that round. I truly think that Daun Jung could win that fight like 6 out of 10 times or more. I think that he's just got the better clinch style, and Devin Clark was struggling in the clinch at times, but then Daun Jung got himself tired as well. And Devin Clark, I guess, put on a good fight, and favorite fell, kind of screwed people for the night. I also put Jung Yun Park with Tyara, and Park's just got such an underrated style. And I really think that, you know, he'll make anyone look like a fool on the ground that has zero grappling, and that's what Dennis Toluyan looked like. Rinya Nakamura and Kazama, we picked the under 2.5 in that fight. I told you guys early to get in on that under 2.5 because it was going to skyrocket. And what the fight finished in 30 seconds. Not a big shocker there. Nakamura is a prospect, chaotic style, Asian Terrence McKinney. I keep on saying it. And he's moving through people. He's going to keep doing that. Next, Doho Choi versus Kyle Nelson. I really thought this one was going to go under 2.5. I felt confident about it. Doho Choi it looked like he was very uncomfortable to get his hands going in this fight. And take commitments to actually putting down Kyle Nelson. And then Kyle Nelson did the grappling, and Choi got stuck in some bad positions. Still thought Choi won that fight. And it shouldn't have been the fucking point deduction. Everyone knows that. And then next, I had Jun by finish. Again, Devin Clark, when I thought, when he's lost, it's been by finish. And he stuck in and won that fight. Finally, Carson's bet. The main event to not go to the 4th round. I could have shortened this. We should have shortened this one up even more. Obviously, we all know Derek Lewis has no grappling. And, I can understand people trying to take a Hail Mary on Derek Lewis by knockout, but let's be honest, Derek Lewis hasn't been a grappler his whole career, and Sergey Spivak just hip throws anybody who has no wrestling. And then on the other hand, Marcin Tybura, Blagoy, round 3 to start. Easy bet, easy money. But hopefully we can improve. And, probably shouldn't have done double down on Daun Jung, but we come out with a negative card, and coming up to the UFC 284 pay-per-view, we got to turn it around. We got to turn it around right now. So, thanks for sticking around up to this point, and peace.
I know. It doesn't matter from the trenches. I'm built like this. The old doubted me, so I couldn't do it. The all said I couldn't do it. Look at me now!